There ain't no day quite like New Gear Day, and you know that's right. You see, this box contains something that I've wanted for a really long time, and I decided finally to bite the bullet and make the purchase. I'm just as excited as you are, so why don't we just take it out of the box already? Or I guess we do reverse unboxings on this channel, so we'll put it back in the box. Before I start the unboxing, I should mention that I got a bundle that comes with 4 extra cables. You can get a base model, which has just the talk box, the adapter, and the tube, and that's $20 cheaper, but I opted to get the cable so that I can hook up my stuff without having to use any of my guitar cables. Alright, well, here's our empty box. First things first, we have our tube, which is packaged right conveniently here in the bottom. Next off, we have the mic clip. This is what attaches the tube to our microphone stand. After that, we have these cables, which I'd be lying to you if I told you I knew what they were. But they're here for a reason. And now after that, we have our box that contains our power supply. And as well as containing the power supply, it also has adapters for international outlet standards. That goes right there. You also get not 1, but 2 1/4-inch cables to use as input and output for the talk box. So we'll just slide those in right there. And last, and probably most importantly, because this is what I paid the money for, the talk box itself, which comes with a quick guide, some extra rubber feet, and stickers and stuff. Neat. And that slots in right there. Let's talk about the instrument itself for a second, specifically the build quality. In short, it's really good. This was originally designed to be a guitar pedal, and as such, it needs to be really, really sturdy, and it is. This entire body here is made out of metal. All the knobs, they're really tightly on, there's no give on them. All the connections here at the back, they attach securely and tightly. And the on-off switch has a very satisfying little click that I do like to play with a lot. If you're a guitarist and looking to add the MXR Talkbox to your board, you'll be very pleased in knowing that it's pretty small and doesn't take up a lot of space. The MXR houses its own amp and speaker driver, so you don't have to lug around extra equipment. Instead, you can have this one tiny little box, and it only weighs like 2.5 pounds. On what I'm going to call the back of the instrument, you have your ports for your input, your output, and the port for your 18-volt AC adapter. There's not much to say about these things, they do exactly what you expect them to, but I can say that these ports hold your cables extremely tightly, and I feel pretty confident in saying that you're going to have a hard time tripping over these and ripping it out accidentally. Here on the face of the talk box, you have the hole where your tube goes, is where the amp is, the logo, and that nice little on-off button that makes a really nice clicky noise. What I do want to talk about though are the 3 knobs here on top. Just like I said earlier, the knobs, along with the rest of the instrument, are incredibly well made. I love the way these knobs feel. There's no wiggle, there's no give, they're tight, and they're just a little bit stiff, which I love because I can control them a little more precisely that way. So there's 3 knobs on the talk box: volume, tone, and gain. The volume knob, bet you can't guess what that one does. It controls the volume of the overall sound that you're going to get out of the talk box. The tone knob, and I quote from the manual, shapes the color of the distorted signal. Basically what that means is going to change the sound that you're going to get out of the talk box. And lastly, the gain knob is going to control the amount of distortion that you're going to get. Let's talk about how we actually set up the talk box now. It's usually set up with a guitar or a synthesizer, but there is a way to use it without it. It's just a little more complicated. We'll start with the easier way of using the guitar or the synthesizer. Both of these are going to use the exact same process. I'll show you how to do it on a guitar. First off, your audio source being your guitar or your synthesizer, you're going to take out and go into the input on the talk box. And then the output of the talk box goes into your amp. So now when you play your guitar and the talk box is off, it comes out the amp. And when you turn the talk box on, it comes out of the tube. And if you're using a synthesizer, you don't necessarily need an output, so you can just do from synthesizer to talk box and that should be fine. If you don't have a guitar or a synthesizer, using the talk box is a little more difficult, but it's still doable. Let me show you how. We still need an audio source, so instead of using a guitar or a synthesizer, what we're going to do is we're going to use a soft synth on our computer. So what you're going to need is an audio interface. What's going to happen is we take one side of our 1/4-inch cable and we plug it into the headphone jack of the audio interface. The other half is going to go into the input of the talk box. Just make sure your DAW is set to the output being your audio interface and not anything else. And that should be all we need in order to create a sound from the Talkbox. The reason this gets complicated is because what happens when you want to record your Talkbox, all of the sound is coming out of the audio interface, which means all the sound is coming out of the tube, so we obviously can't record simultaneously. The easiest workaround of this that I found is having a separate track either on your phone or another instance on your computer with a track that you want to be playing to, and then listening to that and recording the Talkbox and then syncing up the tracks later. Alright, I know what you're thinking, setup, drivers, blah blah blah. Why don't you just get to how it sounds? Well, here's the thing about that. Because the Talkbox makes no sound of its own, the sound that comes out of it is entirely dependent on the sound that you put into it. Before we get to the demos, let me show you exactly how I'm getting the sound out of it. It's not the best and it has a lot of room for improvement, but this is what I did. So let me explain how I'm doing this. I'm not that good at guitar and I don't own a synthesizer, so I'm using the audio interface route that I showed you earlier. Now because of this, I have to have some sort of soft synth in order to run as my carrier voice. Just in case you were curious, this is the patch that I made to run the Talkbox on. I made it on the Vital synthesizer, which is free, and it leaves a lot to be improved on. But I do believe it is a good starting point, and it'll only get better in time. Earlier I mentioned bouncing out a track that you want to record to, and then syncing up those tracks later. My method was a little different in that I used Logic Pro 10 and GarageBand at the same time. Logic Pro 10 had the main project file, and GarageBand was simply just running the synthesizer. I had the input of Logic Pro 10 being the microphone I was recording to, and the output of GarageBand being the audio interface. This method is probably the most convenient one I can find, but it only really works if you have a DAW that can run two instances of itself, or if you're like me and you have two separate DAWs that can run at the same time. Now of course this is going to be a little more intensive on your computer than if you just had a guitar or a hardware synthesizer. But it does work, and it's the method that I use to record the songs you're about to hear.
Down, the break down, down, on, down, the break down, down, on, down, the break down, down, on, down, the break down, down, the break down, down, show the spice of life, down, down, such a great break down,
That's the MXR M222 Talkbox. If you have any questions about it, leave them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks for watching, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Do all the YouTube things. And I'll see you guys in the next one.